Hello and welcome to the Talk Football podcast. My name's Tommy Hay and I'm joined by the editor of Get Spanish Football News Online, Kieran Quayle. How are you today, Kieran?
It's all going well here, Tommy. Good weather and the possible return of football as well. So we've some things to look forward to. How are you keeping?
Not bad. Really, really nice weather here in Valencia. It's good. Just good being able to leave the house again, you know.
Exactly, yeah. No, our limit was extended to 5 kilometers from the house there yesterday. So it was 2 up until then. And like you can still do a lot with 2 kilometers. But yeah, so happy to be able to go for a little bit more of a proper run now over the coming weeks. And if the weather's to stay good, I'll be trying to get out as much as possible. But yeah, good news from Spain that you're actually able to leave now after 7 weeks.
That's it. And aside from just exercise, very importantly, it looks like the bars may be opening again, at least partially. At least the terraces might be opening again next week. No word of a lie.
Yeah, really good news. What is it going to be, like a 30% limit on capacity?
I don't know what that means, 30%, but yeah, they're floating between 30% and 50% capacity. I don't really know how they would enforce that or how it would work, and if it's just going to be limited to terraces or whatever. But you know, we'll see how it works in practice. I know a few restaurants or bars in Valencia, which I don't know if they would entirely begin to follow that rule. I'm thinking of Amigos Bar in Benimaclet, for example. I don't think they'll be rigidly enforcing the 30%, 50% rule, but you never know. But we'll see we'll see what will happen. And as I say, it's just great to be able to get back out again.
It's happening really quick over there. We have to wait until the 10th of August, and that's if things go well, to get a pint of Guinness here.
Yeah, that's not good news for you at all.
It's going to be a long wait.
I'm surprised the people haven't taken up arms at that news.
Sorry?
I'm surprised that the people haven't taken up arms and as a reaction to that news.
Yeah, it's been surprisingly quiet. Although I live in a small village here, and there on Bank Holiday Monday, it was absolutely packed. So there's a little bit of confidence returning, and now the fact that we can go up to 5 kilometers, people are getting a little bit more confident. But yeah, we're still going to have to wait a while for the pubs to be open again.
Okay, well, best of luck with that. Okay, let's get to La Liga. Real Madrid and a few other clubs, I believe, have started testing players today at the training facilities. What do we know about that?
Yeah, most of them returned today. There was some images this morning on the several clubs' Twitter pages with the likes of Atleti returning and Real Madrid and Barcelona, all the players coming in this morning to do their coronavirus tests and also their medicals. You might have a couple of players with higher body fat, higher than normal, just not as physically fit, and that's to be expected. I wonder what type of punishments Cholo Simeone is going to be handing out to players who've increased their body fat or maybe have dipped in their fitness levels. But yeah, it'll be over the coming days that'll be happening, and then the return to individual training is expected to happen over the weekend and from Monday on. So it looks like we have a return to football, one of the first leagues to do so. And yesterday you had the likes of Eibar come out and say that they weren't happy with going back, that they were fearful of it all. But then La Liga president Javier Tebas hit back today and he said that it's actually safer to go and train with your teammates and play a match than it is to go to the supermarket. So we all know where Tebas stands on this.
Yeah, Tebas is not sympathetic at all with the Eibar players who've come out and said that we are scared to go back to training because of the risks that are there and to go back playing. They're not the only team that's scared of a return to play. And Iñaki Williams obviously was talking about how much he wanted to return to playing football, but he was scared about the fitness aspect of it and what it would mean to go from a standing start to top level football again. But Tebas really appears to have absolutely no time for them at all.
No, Tebas has worked hard behind the scenes, and he reckons we get La Liga going in June. He doesn't want to hear any negative opinions coming out, so he's hit back strongly there. And it looks like with all the players back getting tests today and the medicals resuming, it looks like the plan has kicked off and it's going in the direction that he wants it to go in. But then down the line, you have the talk of if the league starts up in June, it's going to be completed over the summer, and that clubs will have to stay in facilities closed off, so basically closed off to their family and friends, and that could be 6 weeks without seeing your family. So that could be quite hard. So I understand where the fear is coming from, not just from a health point of view, but imagine you've got a young family and you have to go off now with your teammates for 6 to 8 weeks. So everything's still up in the air, but I can understand players having these thoughts as well.
That's a bit crazy, isn't it? The confining the players for 6 weeks in their own living quarters and stuff. It's, that's bordering on the gladiators. Locking them up for our entertainment and not allowing them to leave, and exposing them to, at the end of the day, you're exposing them to a risky situation. So I don't know. I can understand why people perhaps don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's a tough one because they're really well looked after. Like everything is done for a professional footballer. We've all wanted to be one, but this is different. It's a unique scenario, and it's not going to be pleasant to be away from your family if that's what's going to happen. And because there's no real template to look on, there's no other leagues doing anything yet. So there's no real situation or example that you can follow. And it's kind of just, okay, if we need the teams to be together and away from their families, that's what we're going to do. We've a right to return to football, and the Minister of Health has given us the go-ahead, and we're able to do it. And from an economic point of view, it's what we need to do. So I think that's the way they're looking at it. And there's talk of the Bundesliga restarting on the 15th of May. So that'll be like the first example that they'll be able to monitor, I suppose. So it's a tough one, yeah. But would you be up for 6 weeks playing for Eibar? Away from your friends and family? It wouldn't be that easy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be up for it because it would be a novel experience for me. But but like if that is your life, if you are a football player, obviously everybody's individual circumstances come into it. As you say, if you've got a young family or what if you have family members who've been affected by this, you wouldn't want to be locked
exactly
for 6 weeks. So don't think it's really taking the players' personal situations into account, or the feeling. It sounds a bit corny, but their feelings into account. I don't see why they should do that, or at least be consulted on it. So I don't know. It's I can totally understand where the players are coming from.
Yeah, and it's that or no football. So some of the players will be hoping to win a league or hoping to get into Europe. So there is stuff on the line for those players, and there's plenty to play for, but it's only football at the end of the day. Like there are bigger issues out there, and it'll be interesting. It'll be nice to watch football as a fan from a distance, and even if it's with no supporters and fake noise introduced to the stadiums, it'll be a bit strange for everybody involved. But yeah, those players will have to knuckle down and listen to Tebas's orders.
Okay, well, the other option, I suppose, would be ending the league. And Thibaut Courtois has been getting a bit of heat in the press this week by saying it would be unfair if Barcelona were to be handed the league at this stage because we've been better, is what he says. What do you think about this situation?
Yeah, Courtois came out Tuesday, and said handing Barcelona the league title would be unfair. We've been the better team over 2 goals. We've drawn 0-0 in the Camp Nou in December, and we beat them in March in the Bernabeu 2-0. So we're the better team. And Catalan Sports newspaper hit back this morning and said, Courtois, why don't you shut up? On their front cover. They're having none of it, and they've got a point. Barcelona are 2 points ahead of Real Madrid. The league isn't decided over the Clásicos. It's not decided over 2 games. And Courtois said that, yeah, we're only 2 points off Barcelona, so there's 11 games to go. You can't decide the title now with so much to play for. And of course, he's going to say we're the better team. He's a Real Madrid player. They're all going to be convinced after that Clásico win in March that they're the better team. But Barcelona lead the table as it stands, so they're obviously the better team.
And that's the thing. Kikas at the end came out yesterday and very, very respectfully disagreed with Courtois. He said, if we can't continue or if we can't go on, the logical thing would be to leave it as it is, i.e. give it to us. And it was a very polite way to disagree with him. The Catalan press, obviously not quite as gentle in their words. You know, really, really visceral stuff. You think you would get away with printing a title like that in Britain or Ireland? Why don't you shut up? It's a bit much, isn't it?
No, you wouldn't. Yeah, you wouldn't get away with it over here. Yeah. No chance. So
who are you more with? Are you more with, like, do you understand where Courtois is coming from? Spain obviously has that head-to-head rule that doesn't exist in other countries, but it still doesn't. It's still secondary to the points rule, surely.
Yeah, I understand where he's coming from, but if the league is called off today, Barcelona are the champions after 27 games because they've got more points than Real Madrid. So removing yourself from both clubs and you look at the table, you see Barcelona top, so they are the best team. The league table doesn't lie, and just because Madrid beat Barcelona over 2 games by getting 4 points from 6, and Barca just getting 1 point, doesn't mean that the league should be continued. But it looks like the league will be continued, so maybe Courtois will be right in the end after 38 games. And
there's also been some good news with Valladolid this week that they've announced that they're going to refund season ticket holders with their money. I suppose in the event of the season being cancelled, no?
Yeah, exactly. It'll be from match day 28, which will be the next match day if it does resume. Club said in the statement that it's kind of hard that they want to do this because obviously they would have wanted the football to be played with supporters, and they're going to return the money from the last few home games that will be held behind closed doors. There's no doubt about that now. I doubt we're going to see fans in stadiums for another year maybe. So yeah, Ronaldo's club, I suppose they're the first ones to do it. I haven't seen any other clubs talk about this yet. Most clubs are just trying to get their players back in for medicals and tests before resuming. But yeah, it's a good idea from the club, and it really makes sense. And then some fans, I suppose, will say no, keep it in the club, because obviously clubs are going to be financially hit around this time of the year now with all of this and heading into next season. So I think there's also an option for fans who will want to renew next season, that they'll be able to just put that money into the next ticket, the next season ticket. So yeah, good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and that's. I think you're right. It's one of the only, if not the only, club that's actually talking about this. The debate in most other clubs has been whether or not to ask for government help, or this ERTE, as it's been called, to allow your club to temporarily lay off staff. Barcelona have applied for one, and they've received quite a lot of criticism because of it. And yeah, what's going on in other clubs? I saw that you had an interview published on Get Spanish Football News with the French player Mathieu Pébern, who's playing for Lugo at the moment, and they've taken. Yeah. Is it a 30% wage cut they've taken?
They're only getting paid 30% of their salary.
All right.
And he said that it was actually the club's idea. It was and the players were involved, and the players said, yeah, we want to do this to help other employees keep their jobs. They've been here longer than a lot of us, and they don't earn that much. And it's a small Lugo. I'm not sure if you've ever been there, but it's a small town, and there wouldn't be too much economy. There wouldn't be too much infrastructure or work happening in that area. And I suppose if you're there 20 or 25 years, you've been at the club all your life, you'll be appreciative of what the squad this season has done. Obviously they're earning not too much either. Like they're a Segunda club, so they wouldn't be earning huge money, not like the Championship in England. And that's probably like a big hit on them. So fair play to the players there, And Matteo Pebern, he's actually on loan from Almeria to Lugo. So clubs are helping, and players in particular who are coming out there helping other employees and staff keep their jobs and be able to pay their rent essentially at the end of the month. So good to see that happen. And different clubs have kept quiet on it. I think 8 clubs have applied for the ERTE in La Liga. So there's been a lot of redundancy schemes happening across the country, really.
And that's driven a lot of criticism. Paco Gémez, the Vallecano manager, was very critical of the clubs that were taking ERTEs because of the amount of money that a lot of these teams are moving. It was probably a veiled dig at, or not so well veiled dig at Barca, because of all the clubs that are applying for these government loans or government handouts, Barca really shouldn't be one of them.
Yeah. And then they're linked every day then in the paper with 60 million euro bids, and it's very hard to believe those transfer links when you see them applying for an ERTE, and you know the financial kind of crisis that's going on behind the scenes at the club as well, trying to monetize their naming rights for their stadium in the coming season. So it's a tricky one when you see clubs doing that and they've got millions behind them.
Yeah, Paco Gémez is obviously a man of the people, so he's up there in my books. Where do you stand in this whole?
Paco's great.
Where do you stand in this whole thing with footballers' wages? They've been getting I think footballers always get a pretty bad rap in the press because they do earn a lot of money, but
they do.
But the amount of shit they were getting in particularly the English media for not forking out lots and lots and lots of money or taking a wage cut, I thought it was a bit much at times, no?
Yeah, I think so. Like, players do a lot behind the scenes that they don't go and advertise. Just because you're not saying on social media what you're doing, doesn't mean that you're not contributing. Like, fair play to Tony Cruz. He came out there recently and he said, "Listen, it's up to me what I want to do with my own wages. I signed a contract here. I expect to get paid for that contract. Real Madrid's a huge club, one of the biggest clubs in the world, if not the biggest, and I'm entitled to my salary every week." And like these players are just numbers. Players come and go, but the club's always there, and they kind of use these players and just expect them then to give up on their salary. But at the same time, like, a lot of players have huge salaries, and maybe they're buying yachts and different things. So like money can go into better places, but it's up to them. It's their contract. And Roy Keane came out actually the other day and he said it's a disgrace. Like, if I was a Man United player, I'd be saying, listen, I want my payment. This is a huge club with big sponsors, big deals coming in. There's lots of revenue here, so I expect to get my own payment, and then it's up to me then as an individual to decide what I want to do.
Yeah, I think this is part of the issue, is that there's probably a lack of trust between the players and the clubs as well, in terms of, like, I think a lot of them don't trust the clubs to do the right thing with their money. I think they'd rather just take it into their own hands. And it's an interesting debate, because if you're a Barcelona player, are you going to, just the way that they've been conducting their business over the last few years, would you trust them with your money to do the right thing with it?
No.
Because it's been littered with corruption cases. That's the latest chapter, is that there's corruption cases and former board members saying that people have got their hand in the till there. And are you going to just hand over your money to those people? You can totally understand the argument that maybe they shouldn't be doing that, and that they should be left to their own devices to use the money as they see fit. But it's
not their fault that. Sorry, go on.
No, on you go.
It's not their fault that the clubs are handing out these wages. Like, they're doing their job on the pitch, and the clubs are facing stiff competition for these players. So they're going to say, okay, I'll give you 40 million a year, but it's not. They've got their agents demanding certain wages, but it's not the players coming out and saying, I need this, I need that. It's, that's just the way the market's running at the moment. And if they're scoring goals at the weekend and winning the leagues, they're entitled to receive the money that's given.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a huge chunk of the club's expenditure as well as the wages. I'm halfway through. I'm halfway through Sunderland Till I Die, or season 2, and it's
good, isn't it?
Oh, it's good. Yeah, that guy, the the guy. There's one of the guys just totally reminds me of David Brent though. The new, I don't know what his name is. The guy that went to Eton.
Yeah, I can't remember the kind of longish hair guy.
That's him. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
proper David Brent. But he's interesting enough way to see how a club works, and it's the fact that he is totally cringeworthy just makes it even more entertaining.
Yeah, it's a good watch.
Be good to see a version of that in Spain, but well, maybe next year. Okay, what else? The Copa del Rey final. We've been talking about this for a while, how it's going to be done. Athletic and Real Sociedad are really, really, really against the idea of holding the final without any fans. And I think this is totally understandable, but they've come out together and basically really stated their opposition to doing this. What do we know about this?
Yeah, they said that they want the final on with fans only, so they're willing to wait for the necessary date. And within an hour or two of them requesting it from the Spanish FA, the FA came back and said, yeah, we absolutely agree with what you're suggesting here. We would like a stadium full of fans as well. Last month, the Athletic Club president came out and said that he'd rather lose, even though it's an all-Basque Copa del Rey final, he'd rather lose the final against Real Sociedad with fans than win it without fans. So I thought that was a pretty big statement. And yeah, it's not just 22 players and the staff on the dugout. This is thousands of people in the Basque Country who've been waiting all their lives for this, and they haven't had much success in that region. They were huge in the early 80s. They dominated Spanish football, Athletic Club and Real Sociedad, and they're two big clubs with big fan bases and represent a really proud region. And they bring through a lot of very good players that go on to play for Spain as well. So they feel that they deserve a final with supporters, and of course you want to see that. So the only real potential date has been a week before next year's Copa del Rey final, the 2021 Copa del Rey final. So if they do want supporters, maybe it's going to be in Cartuja in Seville, which I think holds 50 or 60,000. So if you do want that stadium full, we probably will have to wait until next year before everybody's allowed to go back and watch football together. But yeah, it made sense, requesting this to the Spanish FA and saying we want our supporters there. It's obvious. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious, and it's pretty common sense. And I'm glad that they've stood up for the right thing, because when all of this began, there was, and before we realised that we were going to have to completely stop football, even training and things like that, and that the solution wouldn't just be to play the game behind closed doors. There were quite a lot of people who had financial interest in clubs who were advocating constant, just continuing everything and playing behind closed doors, and nobody cares who cares what the fan thinks or what the fans think. And I'm glad that we've seen a little bit of sense in this, and that we've taken a step back. And as bad as all of this is, probably in the long term, the right thing is going to happen.
Hopefully, yeah. If the clubs remain with that stance, we should see it happen.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. A few other interesting things that we've been looking at, or that we were talking about earlier. I really enjoyed the Samir Nasri article that was posted on your website. So we were talking about Samir Nasri. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before.
Yeah, with Karim Benzema.
Yeah, so he was talking about his past in the France team and missed opportunities and Benzema and things like that. And it was a bit quite heavy and quite bitter, and there's quite a funny story has emerged with about his time at Sevilla, to contrast it with Jorge Sampaoli.
Yeah, we were talking about Nasri last week with the Benzema and Didier Deschamps kind of fallout with France. Nasri was saying that he should have played in the World Cup in 2018, that Benzema's a top player, and he also was talking about himself as a player and said that he should have been in the squad in 2014. So he's a divisive character, Nasri, and he was talking about his time with Sevilla, and in particular with the Argentine coach Jorge Sampaoli, and he was saying that when Sampaoli wanted him to come to Seville, he enticed him by saying, "You can come here and you can go out, you can drink, you can party, you can do whatever you want. I'll keep you covered. I'll protect you in front of the club." And Nasri went on to say then that, "Oh yeah, by the way, he also said that he'd look after my dog when I was away."
That's so good.
So he said he was more like a friend than a manager, and they had a good relationship. But he only played 23 times for Sevilla, and he's just scored 2 goals. That was in the 2016-17 season. So like he's still only 32, Nasri. Like you forget how young he is, but that would have been like maybe just after his peak. So yeah, good relationship with Sampaoli.
It's incredible. He's only 32 years old, and he's at Anderlecht now, isn't he? And
Yeah.
It's he was compared to Zidane when he started out. Obviously, similar background and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
And the style of play was just so great to watch, particularly at Arsenal.
Yeah, so technically gifted. He's very, very easy on the eye. But yeah, I just didn't have the right mentality, I don't think.
Yeah.
Could have been a world beater.
Absolutely. Could have been Kieran Quayle banging in all those goals at the. Is it 7-a-side you played the weekend, or is it 11?
7-a-side, yeah. Oh God, I missed that.
When was the last time you played?
Well, I left Spain on the 17th of March, so it would have been maybe the last week in February, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you'd missed the football, wouldn't you?
Oh, I reckon. I've been running a bit in the roof with an air floater like the ones you use at the beach, and I've been kicking it off the wall.
Are you one of these guys that prefers to watch football than play?
No, I love playing football. I play football every Monday. But
so you actually prefer playing?
There's nothing better than playing, but just as
no,
it's I don't know. There's a time and place. There's a time and place for everything.
I spend much more of my time watching football than playing, obviously. But when I play, there's no other feeling like it.
Yeah,
scoring a goal, even if it's a 7-a-side and you're 2 yards offside and the ref hasn't caught you, it's still a great feeling.
Yeah, but I do watch an obscene amount of football, and my weekends are usually taken over by watching a stupid amount of games in various leagues.
You're impressive. Yeah, you are impressive. You'll do 5 games on a Saturday easily.
I have no life. It's not good at all. I can get away with it because my girlfriend usually goes for a sleep.
That's a big siesta.
During the afternoon. She works in the morning, finishes about 2, and I can get a couple of games in at that point. And then it's just finding the time. You've just got to be committed. It's all about the commitment to watching it. And at the moment, I've completely lost the commitment because it's only the Belarusian league that's on at the moment, and I don't really fancy that, to be honest. So I'm more into watching highlights.
Yeah, we. I normally get up buzzing on a Saturday for all the football, but then I think come maybe 5:30, 6 after watching 2 games, I need a little break from it. But then I might return and watch some more in the evening. But in Spain, we don't have match of the day, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I know.
I definitely miss match of the day.
Oh, totally. Here's a question for you. It's completely improvised. If you had to pick a game of this season so far that you've enjoyed, the one you've enjoyed the most, are there any that particularly spring to mind? I'll tell you mine if you can't think of anything just now.
Yeah, you go ahead.
My first one has to be the last one that we watched together, the Atletico versus Liverpool game. I know it was a Champions League game.
Cracker! Yeah.
It wasn't a La Liga game, but it was. I mean, that is up there. Just everything about it.
I remember.
Complete roller coaster.
It was a brilliant game. I remember the worst game. I went to see Atletico against Leganés on a Sunday morning at the one that it was 12 o'clock kickoff, and it was dreadful. It ended 0-0, and when Atletico were going through a really bad spin. The fans weren't happy, and it was just awful. Javier Aguirre come in, and Leganés actually played better than Atleti. But yeah, I think it's hard to beat that Atletico win at Anfield, 3-2.
Yeah. That Leganés game you're talking about, that was the one where Simeone was getting booed,
yes.
Or I remember because I was listening to it on the radio. I think it was in the gym, and I remember hearing that when the Atletico ultras were chanting the Ole 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 Cholo Simeone. Some of the other fans were whistling and things. I can't really imagine that in the one, but that was something that you experienced.
Yeah, I heard it, it's a bit bizarre booing El Cholo. But yeah, it's very hard to keep 60,000 people all happy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that surely recovered. That surely picked up his reputation, having knocked Liverpool out the Champions League. I think that's bought him a bit more time this season, although it has been disappointing for them.
Yeah, obviously the board are backing him to the hilt, and Enrique Cerezo, the Atleti president, he said that Cholo's going nowhere. Of course, he's going to say that to the media, but yeah, it'd be very hard to sack him.
Yeah, big Henry cherry tree, Enrique Cerezo. Okay, well, hopefully we'll get back to the football soon. I mean, we're beginning to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Players returning to training and things like that. Last question before we wrap it up. The Tebas is aiming for June, no, to go back.
Yeah.
Are people generally optimistic? Do people think that that's a realistic aim, or are we thinking that Tebas is tuned to the moon and being way overly optimistic here?
It does feel early. The fact that they're only getting their coronavirus tests today on the 6th of May, and he wants it to resume in June. I don't know, it feels a bit early at the minute, like the fact that players haven't even started their individual training yet, and then they're going to roll out 4 different phases before starting. It feels like he's going to squeeze a lot in there, and I don't know how he's going to follow the guidelines from the Ministry of Health, but we'll see. How do you think it's going to pan out?
I've got absolutely no idea. I mean, I remember he originally put out 3 separate dates, which should suggest to me that he didn't really have a concrete thing in mind. It seems to be just that he's put this date out there and he's sort of hoping for the best. I think the third day that he proposed was as late as
28th of June.
No, but I remember that the first set of dates that he proposed when he proposed like 3 ones. I think he was willing to go into July.
Okay.
Even the first time around, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure he was sort of just throwing ideas out there. So he seems to have gone with this one, but I don't know. I think it's very hopeful. Put it that way.
Well, last week they went from mid-June. They were saying restarting in mid-June, and now they're just saying June. So maybe they're looking at the situation and saying that we're trying to get a lot done here between now and mid-June. It's only 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. Well, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for joining us here on Talk Football. We hope to see you again next Wednesday. You can also find us on YouTube, and I would also recommend that you read Kieran's website. What's the name of your website again, Kieran? I always forget.
GetFootballNewsSpain.com or Get Spanish Football News on Twitter.
I'm always saying Get Spanish Football News, but the actual website name is GetFootballNewsSpain.com.
Yes, thank you.
It's good. It's neat. It's not ambiguous at all, which is a definite selling point. Okay, thank you for joining us on Talk Football Podcast. We'll see you again next week. Adios.
Hasta luego.